Part of the pandemic planning is what happens when it's over and how businesses that are on life support now can bounce back to full production quickly. That's what the federal wage subsidy is supposed to do. Businesses are desperate for details on how it will work, and today we got some. Our chief political correspondent, David Akin, is taking us through them. David.
Well, Donna, in its basic conception, the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy sounds pretty straightforward.
Is that it's going to be available for businesses, big and small, that are not publicly funded and have seen a 30% or more decline in gross revenues. That includes everything from bars and restaurants to charities and nonprofits.
But then there's the details. The biggest one, when will this wage subsidy be paid? Answer, it will take 3 to 6 weeks. Businesses will get this subsidy from the Canada Revenue Agency and will have to show that their monthly revenue this year dropped by at least 30% compared to the same period last year. But what about those businesses that cannot make that comparison? A startup, for instance, that might have just started earning revenue this year, or a business that might operate on such thin profit margins that loss of revenue of even 5% could mean collapse.
For a business that's just started up in the last year, we're working on how to deal with that. One way would be that they show us the previous month's revenue and show that the decline has happened. But we will have details on that situation and other situations in the coming days.
The cost of this wage subsidy program will also be huge, an estimated $71 billion. That's about 3 times what the government spends on national defense in a year. And for a program that big, Parliament will have to approve.
This is the largest economic program in Canada's history. So I've asked the House Leader and the Deputy Minister to reach out to the other parties about bringing back Parliament. This must be a Team Canada effort.
Now, I'm not understating when I say business owners have been frantic to get the details of this program. I must have heard from a dozen of them today. Their biggest worry now is how to stay in business until this wage subsidy program kicks in, and that could be the middle of May. Donna?
All right, David Akin in Ottawa, thank you. Well, we've talked about how bad things are economically in Alberta, but Newfoundland and Labrador is worse. That province is so short of cash, the Premier did something extraordinary. He wrote to the Prime Minister pleading for help, warning the province is out of time. Finances were bad before this pandemic, but now, as Ross Lord reports, Newfoundland and Labrador is on the brink of disaster.
This Newfoundland oil refinery is halting production due to COVID-19. Oil prices have plummeted, sinking the market for jet fuel and propane, 2 of the refinery's main products.
It's going to take about 5 days to shut it down safely. It'll be an idle mode. It could be 2 months, up to 5 months.
Newfoundland and Labrador's problems run much deeper. Its operating deficit and overall debt were already the highest per capita in Canada. After the pandemic hit, finances became so desperate, Premier Dwight Ball wrote to the Prime Minister, saying without federal assistance, the province would be unable to pay its bills. The letter said, "We have no other recourse to raise the necessary funds to maintain the operations of government." Ball added, "Our province has run out of time." Support from the Bank of Canada allowed the provincial government to hold an emergency session of the House of Assembly and borrow $2 billion. At the time, the Premier brushed off the crisis.
Can you cover payroll without that loan?
We can. There's no question the province is in a very difficult situation, but we'll be covering payroll.
Now, his plea to the Prime Minister is public.
It's really just expressing where we as a province, where I would see it going, and the need for the federal government to look at Newfoundland and Labrador as a unique province.
Ball suggests his province will need much more financial help after Canada emerges from the pandemic. Ross Lord, Global News.
Jeff will continue to consult with experts and try to answer your questions. Send them to yourquestions@globalnews.ca. And on our website, you'll find a special page dedicated entirely to COVID-19. That's at globalnews.ca/coronavirus.